I'm aware, though, there are other things to talk about. Good luck to Connell for clipping this. He might just end up doing like a 2-hour-long clip on the Clips channel to really properly get into this.
Fair enough.
Good luck, Connell. Let us know how it turns out.
Yeah.
Connell, by the way, he leads all of the edits for our news channel and all of the Clips channel edits as well. And he's been doing a bang-up job of things.
He's a fiend on either a late Sunday or an early morning or early Monday. He goes nuts like.
Oh, yeah. Man goes ham. Mm-hmm. So there are other things to talk about. We have spoilerinos here.
Of course.
Elune,
yes. All that stuff. Where do you even start with that?
I feel like I want to start by grabbing an espresso from the coffee machine, but
okay.
That would involve leaving everyone for 30 seconds, so maybe I won't do that.
Well, while you said, I'll go grab a Pepsi.
Oh, away he goes. Farewell. Hello, everyone. So,
just here.
Oh, the Pepsis are over there.
Yeah,
My God.
I brought them into the room.
Here, the Pepsi comes to you. So, Elune then. Elune. Now, this is... There's the Pepsi. Yeah, so Elune stuff's kind of fun or interesting. It's, it's one of those things with Elune where I think, cheers, a bunch of the people who... many of us with Elune were subscribed to different theories.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, of course, we all know, Pyromancer is a passionate member of the World of Warcraft community.
God bless. God bless him.
Yeah, that man tweets from the heart, and he was not particularly pleased that Elune is the sister of the Winter Queen.
Yes.
And now here's the thing, and this is not something that I do specifically against or anything like that for any WoW content creator.
Yep.
I literally, other than Breach, I do not watch any other WoW content creators. And a lot of that is because I'm very focused on lore content, and I want that to be a little bit more raw, a little bit from us. So I do not know if Pyro was in the same camp as me, where... I kind of wanted Elune to be a different power level to just the Winter Queen sister.
Yeah.
Which was what and there's a lot of people who said that, that whole Ysera being her sister's pet, that obviously meant that Elune was the Elune was the sister of the Winter Queen.
Yes.
My read of that was actually Aenar,
yeah.
because it was Aenar who uplifted Ysera. So there's like two different reads there. And it does sort of make you wonder if... Well, it just makes you wonder what's really going on there between, Elune, Aenar, and the Winter Queen. But I guess the thing that we actually can talk about here is when we add a few little data points together. So we know that the Winter Queen's sister is Elune.
Yes.
We also know that Xal'atath, of course, referred to Elune as an upstart goddess.
Yes, so she did.
So that's interesting. And it's interesting. Apparently Inform interesting, aided by Beppis. It's interesting because...
Not sponsored at all.
Definitely not. It's interesting because of where Elune is. So apparently Pyro was actually Team Aenar.
Yes.
I was Team Aenar as well. Well, it's that thing where Elune is supposedly this upstart goddess. So you think about what that means. And you think about even Zoval. Because he clearly was an upstart dickhead.
Yeah.
And that's why he, had his gem of feeling good sucked out of him and put into the avatar. What? The arbiter. So you've got this thing where it's like, right, Elune. Elune had a place.
Yes.
Now, is Elune the Summer Queen? The sort of opposite of the Winter Queen in that sort of cycle? Does that mean that Elune, that Elune existed maybe in the elemental, or not the elemental, but the fundamental plane of life?
Yes.
And was sort of equivalent there. But whatever it does mean, though, if we're to assume that Elune is an upstart goddess, then that means that Elune actually rejected her position, the one that was ordained for her. And that means that Elune is a more individualistic sort of entity. And, I was initially disappointed when it turned out, so Elune is like just another sort of Pantheon of Death, Titan sort of tier member. It's a bit boring, whatever. But if it turns out that Elune being an upstart goddess means that Elune's actually went against the plan, then that actually could start to be interesting. Because Elune has intervened in little things here or there. If Elune has created the Prime Naru, This is the big thought from me, right? Where, you've got the Void Lords, and the Void Lords are hurling down all of these, old gods, right, into our different planets to consume everything, corrupt a Titan. That's what the Voids do. And then we think about the opposite of the Void. The opposite of the old gods is kind of the Naru, right? Because you've got light and shadow as the two different opposing sides. So if you got that, but then it turns out that based on the book that Khadgar told us that he found in Legion,
Yes.
that suggests that Elune created the Prime Naru, then you've got, what, is Elune a being of, that's a big question mark. Because if it's like, sort of opposite to the Winter Queen, as sort of the other sister, you'd sort of think that Elune is a being of life that comes from the plane of life. But we look at Elune, what do we see? We see light, we see arcane, and we see life.
Yeah, which is just a nice halfway split across the
Exactly, yeah. And then I guess then if you look at the Winter Queen, you see death, you see death, you see life, you don't see fell, but you could see a bit of disorder and sort of chaos, how the sort of natural cycle works.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
But then it's interesting to me because it sort of means, did Elune rebel? And if Elune did rebel, well, why did A&R hide out in Elunaria? And it does make you wonder, did the Titans actually team up with Elune to make something happen? And that's why, Elunaria was the safe place. It makes you wonder, why did Elune create the light? Or not light, but create the Prime Naru. And then if Elune did create the Prime Naru, and the likes of Zira are in fact our enemies, people we should be suspicious of, then that does cast Elune into a little bit of doubt. And then, we see Elune as this very light goddess. So number one, the Winter Queen doesn't traipse about the place saying, hey, I'm the Winter Queen, a goddess, worship me. The Winter Queen doesn't do that. The Winter Queen's like, yeah, yo, hello, I'm the Winter Queen.
In her spotlight.
I'm here, I'm doing all the death stuff, keeping the ecology of death going. That's my job. I keep my tree happy, I keep my boys happy, I keep the forest happy. That's me, I'm happy. She doesn't go around begging us to, get on our knees and just be like, oh, the Winter Queen, you're great. But Elune was worshipped.
Yeah, worshipped
Elune
by
has temples.
And she's very, very, very happy to aid those who worship her and pray to her and whatnot. But she doesn't really seem to care about much else.
Yeah, and then you look at the light. You're like, oh well, the light's a bit of a dickhead sometimes, isn't it? Right. So
of course,
it does make you think then that Elune is. While to me it is unsatisfying that Elune is fundamentally a being of, I guess, not as mysterious a nature, that Elune maybe is a character that originally fit very plainly, very succinctly into this sort of cosmic framework that they've given us. Well, if Elune is this upstart goddess and she's taken a bunch of things into her own hands, well then Elune is a lot more the protagonist of her own story. The Winter Queen is the protagonist of her own story, but her story's not that interesting because she's happy enough with her lot in life. Whereas if Elune is really trying to affect change and change things up, well, that's where we get interesting.
So
especially if Elune did allow for Cheldersil to happen.
Well,
which is a theory.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course she did because she's powerful enough to have stopped it, or maybe she's not that well, blah, 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 blah. But I actually think there's a couple of little hints towards, well, I don't want to say discredit because it sounds as if you're trying to have positive theory and have it written up and, be the truth. But the Winter Queen's reaction whenever she's brought the tear is very much, oh yes, my lovely sister who I've not seen. It's not full of like anger of like, that tramp was supposed to do her job and she's way off cahooting with a light or whatever else, She's not doing that.
Very Northern Irish.
Yeah. So there's none of that felt. It was more just, oh yes, I wonder how she's getting on. She's a nice girl. Cheers for the tear, etc. And like, so I don't know. It's kind of weird. I love the idea of her being there in her spot and then going, nah.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm gonna go do some shit. I'm gonna go, oh, like imagine if she's life by default or something, and then she's running around like, yo, what's this arcane shit? Hey, Amanthul, can you teach me how to use this? Amanthul's like, yeah, here you go. Here's how to make stars fall on people's head. And she's like, druids, got this. Look what I just learned. But that, and then maybe like with the light as well. Although if she's creating the Prime Naru, you imagine light is maybe her origin point or something.
Yeah.
But like imagine as her being this like almost like a cosmic traveler picking up stuff as she goes, and kind of been represented and enjoying the kind of playfulness of it all.
Yeah.
That would be super interesting. But just for the sake of this Tear of Elune thing, I would much rather the Lost Codex is I'm not going to call it their theory, because it was just a tweet. It was a what if more than a theory. But the Tear of Elune is a Titan artifact. Why is it called the Tear of Elune? Well, how do things get named? Maybe it was the Tear of Aenar, and the elves were like, no. We're gonna call this after our goddess, because fuck all y'all.
Well, that actually would make a lot of sense. I mean, we know
That would
what
solve all the
happens.
problems. Like,
Remember when, was it Velen suggested to Taronda that Elune could be like a Prime Naira or something? Was it that? And Taronda was just like, aye, Velen, don't go there. Don't you go there.
It was something like, she's like, oh, yeah, Elune's very similar to the Nar. She's like, nope, don't want to, don't care.
Yeah. So it's very clear that they are hastening the Elune related stuff. I just have one wish, which is, boys, keep it a mystery. Keep it a mystery. Do not explain your myth. Keep your myth, because a big mythological backdrop is a lot more interesting than us playing a source book of a fantasy universe. As much as writing a source book is really fun. So I just hope they have that storytelling restraint. But it's certainly interesting what could go on with Elune.